What's going on, Detroit Lions fans? Welcome back in on a Friday night. Sit back, pop a top, enjoy the show. We're talking some Detroit Lions game day. Big, big, big game this week. Finally back on primetime, right where we belong. You know, I got to rep the Detroit Lions Salute to Service hoodie. This hoodie is on a winning streak. It's been washed, but I'm not going to take this hoodie off on game day episodes until we lose. So I'll probably be wearing this hoodie for the foreseeable future until my unborn child graduates college. I love these AFC South matchups. I love these matchups against teams that we don't get to see too often, you know, like the Titans. I know we saw the Jaguars a couple years ago. We got the Colts coming up. Houston right now. This is probably one of those games at the beginning of the year I had circled on my calendar for a specific reason. And unfortunately, I will not be getting my wish or my dream. I was looking forward to the CJ Stroud matchup with Aiden Hutchinson, going back to the Michigan-Ohio State days a few years ago. The Heisman Trophy ceremony where they were both on stage. CJ Stroud was looking like a little sourpuss. Hutch was beaming from ear to ear. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that matchup, okay? I had Hutch on the thumbnail. I wanted him versus CJ Stroud, but with him being out, we're not going to get that matchup, at least this year. We'll see what the future holds. I'm kind of disappointed with how Houston's been playing, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. If you guys have been following this channel long enough before the season started, I said that this was going to be an early sneak peek of the Super Bowl. I really thought that the Houston Texans would be up there with the Chiefs and the Ravens in the AFC. They're still playing some damn good football. They're a really good football team, but I don't see Super Bowl caliber. I think they're the best in their division. Their division is terrible. So, I mean, I'm not really seeing too much there. But this was my Super Bowl matchup pick, Houston versus Detroit. So maybe they'll get it figured out after we hand them a loss this week. But let's look at some stats. I love looking at some of these stats and diving into some of this stuff. Let me bring it in right here. Points per game, Lions number one, Texans kind of middle of the pack. All right, that's the most important offensive stat, I think. That and red zone efficiency, where the Lions are top 10 and the Houston Texans are top 15. Their offense, as you can see, just by the numbers, middle of the pack. Defensively, we're kind of scattered. But again, the big one for me, points per game on defense, we're sitting at fifth, 18.5 points given up. Houston's sitting at 22.5. And the next big stat for me I usually look at is takeaways. How many times are we taking the ball away? 16, putting us at third overall, and Houston's in the top 10. So we'll get into some more stuff here. Let's look at some injury stuff, because this is a long injury list. And most of these guys were expected, like the Malcolm Rodriguez, the Mosleys, who just got activated from the IR. Iffy, same thing. Jerm got put on the IR today. He's gone for 4 weeks. Still no Broderick Martin. Kind of the surprise was Taylor Decker, and you see Zadarius Smith there, questionable. I'll talk about him in a second. But Taylor Decker, I think what we're going to do with the Detroit Lions offensive line is we're just going to shuffle it a little bit, and we're going to slide Penei Sewell over to left tackle, I would expect. And I think Dan Skipper will slide into Penei's role at right tackle. Now, my question is, the Detroit Lions run the jumbo package quite a bit. You know, the tackle eligible thing, if you're not familiar with the jumbo packages, it's where you bring in the extra offensive lineman to either block, go out and catch a pass, get screwed by a referee, whatever the case may be. I'm curious to see, and this is the situation I brought up, who's going to take that role. Is it a Christian Mahogany? Maybe we get a first glimpse at him as a rookie. Hasn't played at all this season. He was kind of he was on the IR for an illness. I think he's just getting back from mono. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be Awasika? Do they scratch that package, which I don't think they'll do, and just try to figure out another way? So that's kind of where I'm at with the offensive line. I think we'll be okay, because looking at the Houston Texans, their big one, who is officially ruled out, is Will Anderson, Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. And then a lot of talk about their wide receivers, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. That's kind of what I'll talk about in a second. But the big one for them is obviously Nico Collins, Michigan man, very familiar with him. The number one wide receiver in terms of stats and production before he got injured and got put on the IR. So even if he comes back, I don't think he's going to be a full go. I don't think he's going to be the same Nico Collins right away. I think they're going to put him on some type of snap count. Maybe he's a goal line package, something like that. But we're not going to see Nico Collins out there for, 50% of their offensive plays. I don't think we'll see any of that. I think they'll ease him back in. But that's kind of just going through the injuries, guys. Let's talk about where I think Houston struggles. I've got to watch them the last couple weeks, and what I've noticed is this is good news for us as Detroit Lions fans. The interior of their offensive line, they're doing the same thing, but they don't have the dominant offensive line like we do. And again, I'm not here talking shade or talking shit or anything like that. I'm just being real. I give a fair, honest opinion. I might throw a little jab here and there, but where I watched the Houston Texans struggle primarily against the New York Jets a couple weeks ago was their interior offensive line is bad. Okay. So I take it with a grain of salt because the Jets had a guy by the name of Quinnen Williams, who's an absolute monster, probably one of the top 5 defensive tackles in the league. So that's a tough task. Okay. That's a tough block. That's a tough assignment for a whole game. We got 2 guys up front in the middle that are pretty damn good too, though. Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, maybe some Levi Onwuzurike in the middle. I think we can overpower their 2 guards and their 2 centers and make CJ Stroud's life a living hell. Now, I've watched CJ Stroud play football for a long time, all of his Ohio State career. And even during the draft prep, I said that CJ Stroud was the best quarterback in that class. He's struggling this year, and trust me, he's my fantasy quarterback. I'll gladly see him struggle this week. But where he does very well is when he has weapons and time to throw the ball. Now, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Ben Roethlisberger. He can move the pocket. He can buy some time, but I forget which announcer it was a couple of weeks ago. They said that he was a mobile quarterback. CJ Stroud's not a mobile quarterback by any means. Let's not get it twisted. But he is capable of extending a play by a half a second, something very small. Again, very similar to what I saw from Ben Roethlisberger, just kind of a guy who, he could do some boot action. He could do some stepping up or some shuffling in the pocket and buy some time. If we're putting continuous pressure on him, again, watch his last game against Michigan where he was under constant pressure by a guy by the name of Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, and the rest of the company. When he's under pressure, and this is any quarterback, but he doesn't have the escapability. So I think if we're putting pressure on him and his internal clock is really ticking and he's running for his life, he's going to struggle. And again, you throw in the topper of not having a lot of his weapons. They're running the ball very effectively in Houston. Joe Mixon's a damn good running back. He's having a great year. So that's kind of where I lean into, is Zadarius Smith going to play? Now, he's listed as questionable. I said I'd talk about it. I kind of talked about it on an episode the other night where he kind of had hinted that Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn kind of want him to get more comfortable with some of the packages and the blitzes and all that. But I think if it's like a 3rd and 11, hey man, you know what the deal is. Go out there, rush the passer. Okay, there's nothing fancy about it. Okay, I'll look for Alex Anzalone to kind of maybe give him a quick 1-second coaching on the field. Be like, hey man, this is the play. This is what you have to do. Something like that. I think we will see him. I said the other night 10 to 15 snaps, and I'm still sticking to those guns. I think that's going to be Zadarius Smith's snap count. And again, that's fine. If it's purely just pass rush situations, I'm good with it. I do think we'll see Zadarius Smith. It's just not going to be like, we're not going to see him for 40, 45 snaps or anything like that on defense. Where I think the Lions have the biggest advantage, our offensive line. Okay, even without Taylor Decker, we got our whole offensive line across the board is Pro Bowl caliber. We're talking about Penei Sewell, best tackle in football. Switching from right to left, he can do that no problem. Graham Glasgow, the most versatile offensive lineman I think we have. Zeitler, people mover. Frank Ragnow, the tank. Dan Skipper, probably the biggest guy on the offensive line. Might not have the athleticism of some of our other linemen, but I trust Skip for a game to come in here and hold his own against some of these guys. So I think we will be able to run the ball very effectively. I think Houston has 2 very good corners in Kamari last year that they just drafted from Georgia, and I'm drawing a blank. The kid from LSU. I'm drawing a blank on his name. It'll probably come to me in a minute. But I think we're going to be able to run the ball. My player of the game for the Detroit Lions on offense, Jahmyr Gibbs. Defensively, I think Brian Branch is pissed off. I think he's very pissed off. I think he's going to be playing with that chip on his shoulder. I look for him to have another interception. I look for him to have a big game, fired up. That whole bullshit with the Green Bay Packers that happened last week, I think he's Not happy with how that went down. I think he's going to come in motivated and fired up and be ready to play some football. So, offensive player of the game, Jahmyr Gibbs. Defense, Brian Branch. Not really a hot take, guys. Again, I am dying. I want it to happen at home. I'm dying for a defensive touchdown. I'm trying to call it. I'm trying to put it out into the air. I know we had one last year against the Kansas City Chiefs, Brian Branch, but I'd like to see one at home. And I know this isn't a away game, but I don't know why. I love defensive touchdowns. We've had obviously offensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns. We've had a couple close calls with some scoop and scores from Carlton Davis, but we haven't had that pick six or a scoop and score yet. I'm looking for that this game. Somebody also, it's still driving me nuts that I can't think of that corner for the Texans. An interesting stat that I saw the other day was that all of our interceptions have come from our safeties, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. None of our corners have an interception yet this year. So hot take, maybe hot take. I want you guys to leave it in the comments. Of the three corners that we have, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, the nickelback, and Carlton Davis, who do you think goes out and gets their first interception? Does that happen this week? Leave it in the comments. Final score prediction, as I'm still trying to find this corner for the Texans. I just can't focus right now. Someone leave it in there. It's going to drive me nuts. I'll look it up when I get off here. Final prediction for the game. Score. Lions, I think, win this one. Obviously, I'm not being a homer. It's just hard for me to pick against a team like the Lions with the best roster in the NFL. It's racking my brain. I'm sorry, guys. Predictions for the game. I think the Lions win this one. Let's say 41-27. 41-27 Lions. I think our offense stays rolling, stays hot. Jamison Williams coming back. I think he'll get some touches. I think Dan and Ben Johnson will try to get him involved early. I think he's capable of making some big plays even against these two corners, even though I can't think of that one's name right now, and it's driving me wild. I apologize for keep bringing it up. St. Brown's going to do his thing. Sam Laporta, I think our offense is just going to be unstoppable, guys. It's just the best offense in the league. It just is what it is. So drop your comments down below. Hit that like button. Stick around. I'll be back later with another show. Thanks for watching.